And the story begins with a guy with red eyes lying in the snow and looking at the sky, trying to understand what happened to him. In fact, he is the captain of a warship powered by magic. Every time the hero opens his eyes he thinks that he is about to die. After some time, the young man raised his hand up and was about to call the doctor with a gesture, but suddenly he realized something strange. It seemed to him that the hand that he now sees in front of him does not actually belong to him. The situation was quite strange. The wizard, with the last of his strength, crawled towards the reservoir, leaving behind him a bright scarlet trail in the snow. Leaning over the incredibly clear surface of the water, the guy was surprised to realize that he had found himself in another world. Now the young man is the eldest son of the Deep Water clan, whose name is Xian, and has been looked after by beautiful maids since childhood. Every day he had one task, which consisted directly of endless entertainment and other pleasures of life. However, today his happy and short life ended under an avalanche. Huge amounts of snow fell right on the young man's head. In some strange way, he still managed to stay alive, while the wounds on his body looked more like claw marks than injuries from an avalanche. In any case, he needs to heal first. There was also good news. All his magical skills remained with him. To use them you need to click on one of the circles. You can use the element of wood to heal. It allows you to heal wounds and also cleanse the body. Unexpectedly, the hero realized that he did not have enough mana to use the spell. Now his level was 0, he didn't have a drop of mana left. The young man tried to remember what happened to him at the last moment. In a past life, his ship was attacked by aliens and Xian decided to take the fight. Legends say that if you simultaneously activate all 9 schools of magic, you can be transported to another dimension. Most likely, this is how he got here, which means that the wizard needs to accumulate mana and use all 9 schools of magic to return. Suddenly a powerful beam of spiritual energy fell from the sky to the ground. Somewhere nearby there was an inconspicuous animal. It looked like an ordinary white rabbit with bright red eyes. At some point, the animal rushed at the small beetle. To satisfy its hunger, suddenly some incredibly large beast stepped on it. It was a huge monster. He would be very upset, because his hunt was almost over, and at the same time he was only one victim short. But after a few seconds the huge beast was happy. He looked forward and noticed how the hero was doing something over a hole in the ice. When Xian healed his wounds, he still had 1000 mana points left. To fry the fish he caught, he would need to spend at least half of these points. In fact, this is too much, so the guy decided to simply eat his catch raw. It was at this moment that the monster rushed at him holding a large axe in his hands. At the same time, the young man did not notice him at first. He was too busy eating. The fish turned out to be very tasty. The only thing missing was the hot sauce. Fortunately, Xian still managed to repel the attack of the huge beast. In this he was helped by the gnawed skeleton of the prey, which he had already eaten. When the guy repelled the attacker's attack, the monster couldn't believe his eyes. He was counting on an easy hunt, and his target turned out to be incredibly fast. If the young man had delayed even for a moment, he could have died. It's good that when he caught fish, he used wind magic, which increases agility. Suddenly the monster simply disappeared. A second ago it was right in front of the hero, now it was nowhere to be found. In fact, the huge beast turned into a small and cute beast that looked very scared. He must return to the demon world and report everything to the elders. Xian needs to find some safe place. He didn't think that there were still monsters in this world. They were probably the ones who left wounds on his body. His maids must be somewhere nearby at the foot of the mountain and wait for his appearance. He must meet them and go home. But first, the guy must activate the element of metal, which affects his physical damage. This will help if someone else decides to attack him. The element of metal was activated by 10 units. This allowed the hero to open a skill called the Body of a Bear, which increases strength and endurance. Still, the young man's body is too weak. He must use any means to strengthen it. Otherwise he will certainly become an easy prey for wild animals. Meanwhile, at that very foot of the mountain, one of the maids decided that the huge beast Ruoshao had already returned to his native demon world. This beauty looked very happy because their business was finally over. Later there was a story to be told that their master died in an accident. The other 2 maids were nearby. They sat on a huge snowdrift and laughed loudly while watching the video. It showed how Xian was running away from a huge beast, Before his death the guy begged for the assistants to save him. Of course he was unlucky, but a deal is a deal. The young man ran quite quickly. This is because the maids often walked with him. If he had been fat and lazy, then he would not have had to suffer before his death. After all, the beauties raised him from childhood. They were even a little sorry to see how the hero was killed. This stupid one also resisted. In fact, there was no need to pretend to be pretty. After all, Xian most likely did not have a chance against a mid-level demon. If the girls had rushed to help their owner, they would probably have suffered themselves. Suddenly someone they thought was already dead approached them. The three beauties took a break from watching the video on their phone and looked forward. At that moment there was an expression of complete bewilderment on their faces. The fact is that in front of them stood a man who was only vaguely similar to the hero. He looked like an adult and quite strong man. 1,000 years ago, demons defeated other peoples and became the rulers of the mainland. They enslaved other peoples and called them lazy. The lazier the creature was, the higher its level, and the tastier it seemed to the demons. For example, a lazy person of the 4th level was quite tasty. Low-level demons worked and raised lazy people, so that they could then present them as gifts to middle-level demons, and after higher-ranking demons devoured such lazy people. The lower demons made a statement about some kind of accident. Usually the news said that people disappeared during a sudden tsunami. Higher demons pretend to be gods. They make people believe that they should constantly relax and enjoy life. Every year they choose 5 lazy people of the highest level and trick them into becoming victims. The 3 girls are the assistants of the deep water family. They tried their best to make their lazy Xian reach the 8th level, after which he had to be eaten by monster Ruoxiao. But for some reason the guy returned safe and sound. Besides, his hair became longer, and he also became taller and stronger. This is generally the same person. Did he really awaken the blood of the dragon? When he ran away, it is most difficult to make such people lazy. One of the beauties suggested that the owner go to the mountain again tomorrow. This was the only chance for the girls to avoid punishment, but the hero, for obvious reasons, did not want to go to certain death a second time. Another maid suggested to her friend that she simply kill the young man and then drag him to the mountain, but this proposal was too harsh. In order to somehow rectify the situation, a beauty named Felina tried to convince Xian that no monsters actually exist. Unfortunately for her, the guy did not succumb to manipulation. It was written on her face that she was simply trying to implement some kind of plan. Despite this, the maid continued to stand her ground. She tried to put pressure on Pity and pretended that she did not recognize her former dear master. The blood of dragons flows in the family of the deep ones. The young man could become stronger with a minimum of effort. Ordinary running could give him incredible abilities. Now Felina didn't even want to part with the hero, because he had a rather attractive body, but her friend insisted that they needed to think about something else. Another beauty named Mia noticed that now the guy knows about the demons outside, it won't be easy for them to set up an accident a second time. The last girl's name was Eva. It seemed to her that they took their lazy man out for walks too often. That's why he became strong enough. Now they have problems. The only way out of this situation was murder. Felina suggested that Eve deal with the hero, and her friends, in turn, would cover her. In the evening news broadcast, the presenter reported that an avalanche had descended from the mountains today. 9 people were missing, and citizens were asked to take care of their safety. Get out of the bath. Xian realized that this world is practically no different from the one from which he comes, but why doesn't anyone fight monsters? The situation seemed rather strange to the young man. Something was wrong here. The monsters were not just ignored, it felt like no one even thought about their existence. In the end, the guy decided that it was too early for him to think about it. He should train while he has the opportunity. The hero should accumulate enough mana. Then he will be able to return to his home world. His friends are waiting for his return by the Sea of Stars. All this time Eve was watching him. She could not understand why her master became in such a strange position. Had he really gone crazy? It's good that Xian had his back to the girl. If you leave a piece of soap near his corpse, everyone will think it was an accident. When the young man's father mourns the deceased, the beauty can calmly declare that, unfortunately, no one is immune from a turn of fate. And when everything calms down, Eve will simply hand over the deceased directly to Ruoxiao, after which she and her friends will be freed from punishment. This idea seemed just great to Beauty, so she decided to bring it to life right away. She threw a bar of soap at the guy's feet. Because of this, The young man slipped and fell down. His body is now too strong. If he falls, he could destroy the whole house. At the last moment, the guy noticed that there was an open window nearby, and thus he had the opportunity to save everyone. To do this, the hero must first concentrate all his strength in his legs, otherwise he will not be able to move to another place. Soon Xian actually succeeded, but something went wrong in the process. The magnetism emanating from the young man's body was too huge. That is why, after landing, the guy felt that someone was under him. Apparently the strong energy of attraction affected Eve. Looking back, the hero saw with horror how one of his assistants was lying on the ground and showing no signs of life. Did Xian accidentally crush the unfortunate beauty? He stood next to her lifeless body for several more minutes with an incredibly sad look. At that unfortunate moment, the young man accumulated too much mana in the element of metal. This made his body too powerful and unpredictable. The only way to correct this situation was the distribution of mana. You need to redirect all the energy into the element of wood, which is capable of healing. The best choice now would be a technique called Spirit Return. It is the third skill in the regenerative element of wood. When the process ended, the young man unexpectedly noticed how his appearance returned to its previous state. Now he looked like a boy. Although he has become the same weakling that he was, but now it does not matter, because he is doing this to help the girl whom he considered kind. Now the most important thing is to save Eve. The hero fully concentrated and put his hands on the beauty's back. The sky must return her spirit. This strange process could be seen even with the naked eye. A small ghost in the form of a small kitten suddenly grabbed the tree branches. Within a few minutes, Eve exclaimed in surprise. Her flight from the roof happened so quickly that she did not understand anything. Also, the guy spent too much energy. First he needs to rest. Fortunately, nothing threatens the beauty's life. All that remains is to cure her wounds. First of all, you need to take the girl to a safe place. The young man picked her up from the ground and was going to go to his room. If someone finds her, there will be problems. Meanwhile, a strange package arrived at the mansion where the hero lives. The courier asked to give him 5 stars and wished him a good day. The rest of the beauties could not understand whether Eva had completed her task. In the end they decided not to wait for her and come up with a backup plan. Father Xian should return tomorrow, so the maids have very little time left. They need to go to the guy's room now. Inside the box was a delicious cake and a note. Mia and Felina pretended that they had prepared this treat themselves. But in fact, they only added a pinch of a special powder. If an ordinary person eats something like that, he will die within a few minutes. In the young man's room, meanwhile, Eva was lying under a blanket. The hero hoped that no one would notice her and he would have enough time. Unfortunately, he was unable to have privacy with the injured girl, because the other maids knocked on his door and brought him a tasty treat. According to them, this cake was sent to the hero by Lady Lian herself, and if he doesn't eat it, she will get angry and break off their engagement. As soon as the beauty said these words, Xian quickly opened the door and grabbed a plate with a strange substance. Frankly speaking, the dessert looked rather unattractive. It looked more like a lump of dirt. Moreover, the young man's instinct told him that the food was poisoned. The situation was quite strange and the guy thought for a few minutes about why his future wife needed to add poison to the cake. Despite this, within a few minutes Xian literally swallowed an incomprehensible substance, because his technique allows him to break down any poison. Among other things, this technique made it possible to convert particles of poison into additional energy. For an ordinary person this would be fatal. This can be called real magic. It is energy that can neither be created nor destroyed, but can only be redirected for one's benefit. By using purification, the hero can split and absorb it, thus he managed to earn as much as 100 units of mana. After some time, Mia looked inside the room to see how things were. She assumed that the owner had long since died. Suddenly the young man opened the door even wider, and because of this the beauty flew to the floor. The guy looked happy and asked if you had another piece. Having come to her senses a little, the maid raised her head up and looked in surprise at the man who should have been dead for several hours. If this is really the case, then it won't be difficult for the girl to bring another portion of poison. She suddenly jumped to her feet and ran towards the kitchen. It seems Mia underestimated the young man. Her poison was too strong and she didn't want traces to remain on his body, so she just needs to increase the dose. In addition, the previous poison is still in the guy's body. the beauty is sure that her plan is flawless and no one will notice the catch. Despite all the girl's efforts, Xian ate the second piece of cake exactly the same as the first, after which he asked for another portion of the supplement. Therefore, the maid ran to the kitchen several more times for pieces of the strange substance. To her surprise, the poison never affected the guy. In the end, the last piece of the unappetizing cake remained inside the beautiful blue box. Moreover, the beauty used too much pollen. In fact, she wanted to use all the poison that was left. She needed to demonstrate all her abilities and show what insects could do. Even if this does not kill Xian, then the girl can confidently say that there is no poison in this world that can finish him off. Of course, this did not affect the hero in any way. Mia sat opposite him and watched with a feeling of absolute bewilderment as he absorbed an incredible amount of her poisonous pollen. At some point, the maid's fragile psyche could not stand it and she practically lost consciousness. She just wanted to disappear. In fact, her condition turned out to be much worse. Another wounded beauty was about to leave this world. Was she really that tired while running for the cake? What a silly girl. It was enough for her to tell about her condition. Xian could go for another portion of the strange cake on his own. Now the young man does not have enough strength to use the return of the spirit, so he will have to take the second maid to his bed. At this rate, the hero will have no mana left for anything other than treating the girls. He begged them to stop doing all sorts of stupid things and hurting themselves. All this time, Felina was watching what was happening from the side. She noticed that the light was still on in the master's room, and her friends had not yet returned. Because of her strong interest, the girl also looked inside the room and asked if Xian was sleeping. Maybe he needed some help. Outside the door, the last maid saw a rather strange picture. The hero was sitting above the bed in a lotus field, and two girls were lying under the blanket. From the outside, the situation looked quite strange, so the young man was a little embarrassed and had a bad feeling. But Felina was most surprised by the appearance of her young master. Why all his muscles disappeared and he again became like an ordinary child. Probably the other two beauties exhausted the guy so much that he lost his energy. Is this really the power of a dragon? The maid was sure that her friends were able to exhaust Xian a little in this way, but why didn't they tell her anything about it? With the words that even succubi were once afraid of Felina, she got rid of some items of clothing and offered to have a little fun. Due to excessive self-confidence, the beauty did not notice the bowl under her feet on which the cake had previously been lying. The guy asked her to be careful. But unfortunately it's too late. The girl stepped on the dishes and flew forward. Soon her forehead hit the bed with all her might. Thus, the young master's last maid fainted. She also had to be put under the blanket. Are they just mocking? Today Xian found out that there are monsters in this world. Strange news and terrible food with poison. There is clearly something wrong here. You need to be very careful. However, what do I do to him before this? He is simply an unremarkable traveler between worlds. He needs to quickly accumulate mana and return home. After a while, the guy was too exhausted. It's better to continue tomorrow morning. He hopes that the three beauties will no longer make his life difficult. Over the entire 20 years of service on the ship, the hero has already forgotten what attractive girls look like. Now he has a chance to watch them. They all looked very cute. They had no beards, and their skin and hair were soft and pleasant to the touch. Compared to the ship's crew, they were incredibly clean and fragile. Xian had the feeling that even a light breeze could kill his maids. They seemed so vulnerable and tender to him. Tomorrow the hero begins to avoid them. This is the decision he made so that in the future he would not have unnecessary problems. After this event, the next day, Mrs. Lian finally came to their house. Everyone had been waiting for her since the morning. At the same time, the lady herself first of all wanted to see Xian. The maid said that he was too tired in the mountains yesterday and probably had not woken up yet. The guest was a very attractive young girl with long white hair and a tail like a fox. It's not easy to make a dragon so lazy. It seems the hero's father treats his son too well. After all, his fiancée came to visit, and he still couldn't get out of bed. Is this really how a real man should behave? Probably the guy was all worried when he found out that his mistress was coming. His father decided to go into his room and find out what was the matter. With a wide smile on his face, the father opened the door and turned to his son. He should go out as soon as possible, because he has guests. Meanwhile, the hero was very busy. He was lying under a blanket with three beauties and meditating intently. people might think something wrong. Seeing this picture, his father was incredibly surprised. He would never have thought that his son was capable of causing such an outrage. Dripping with sweat, the man closed the door and turned to Lian. He lied that Xian was a little busy and invited the girl to come in a little later. He probably already reacted to the young lady's cake. At least that's what she decided. She should have just sent a letter. In fact, the guy's father was at a loss, because the girl came here for the sole purpose of breaking off the engagement. It turned out that the young lady was the daughter of the fifth most powerful family on the entire continent. The previous owner of the hero's body had been chasing her for a long time and trying to please her father. Because his family is much weaker, the man began to beg Lian to reconsider her decision, but such a popular beauty already has too many fans. Frankly speaking, this girl never considered Xian a real man. Moreover, today she has a meeting with the son of another influential family. The young lady said this out loud, in the hope that the guy would begin to dissuade her. However, to her surprise, he only wished her a safe journey. Not only the girl was shocked by what she heard, but also the guy's father. He thought that the younger man had gone crazy and was just talking nonsense. Since the young lady did not get what she wanted, she began to pretend to be sad. Her fiancé was too rude and arrogant. Apparently the previous owner of this body really suffered a terrible attitude towards himself. Xian, on the contrary, dreams that this bride would leave as soon as possible. To make the process go faster, the young man decided to somehow push Lian away from him, otherwise, she might stay in this house for too long. Unexpectedly for everyone, the guy came out of his room and quickly approached the beauty, after which he sharply pressed her close to the wall. Soon, absolutely crazy words began to come from his lips about some dogs and that he wanted to lick his bride right now. After listening to the strange desires of her fiancé, Lian looked at him with an incredibly surprised look and tried to answer something. However, what she heard so struck the girl that she simply stood in a stupor for several minutes, wondering if the hero had really gone crazy. The father tried to stop the inevitable and threw a huge vase of water towards his son. However, this time only Lian was hurt. When the young man caught the vase, all the water inside it poured onto the mistress's head. She asked what was going on here. With a worried look, the man sincerely asked the girl for forgiveness. He would immediately order the servants to bring spare clothes and prepare something as compensation. However, the young man did not agree. He asked his father not to call help, because the guy could cook food on his own. This statement also seemed strange to Lian, because her fiancé had never cooked before. Why did he suddenly start acting so strange? If Xian is going to bribe the beauty with food, then nothing will work out for him, because she has already decided everything and will not marry him. After the bath she wants to go home. After some time, the young lady and the man entered the living room and were surprised that the whole table was filled with very appetizing dishes. Previously, the guy always took food, mixed it with spices and threw it into a blender, and then ate what he got, but now he made real masterpieces with his own hands. Moreover, that was not all. The young man's father prepared something else especially for the bride's information. It was in a small box. It was some strange thing with a tube on top. The man asked Lian to be careful, because you could easily get burned. Meanwhile, the hero was still in the kitchen and actively chopping something. As a form of respect for his efforts, the girl decided to stay. Soon she also tried the gift prepared especially for her. The beauty began to drink from a straw. From her reaction, one could understand that she experienced some previously unprecedented sensations, without uttering a word. Apparently women really can't be trusted. Even though the young lady didn't want to eat at first, she seems to have an incredible appetite. At first the girl just wanted to try it, but she had been devouring food non-stop for an hour. She could have left at least something for the maids. At some point, Lian stopped and admitted why she wanted to break off the engagement. It was precisely the very maids with whom her fiancé spends too much time. He knows very well that if he walks a lot, he will lower his level of laziness, as if the beauty would want them to just sit at home every day and eat different delicacies. After some time, the hero still saved the last remnants of food for his maids, although the young lady did not agree with this. In fact, the girl still didn't understand why the guy treats his assistants so well. Are they really so dear to him? The servants, meanwhile, were still lying on the bed in a semi-conscious state. Xian said that they were simply too tired after the walk. Seeing three half-naked assistants lying on the future groom's bed, the young mistress almost went crazy, as if he was mocking her. They are simply servants who exist to serve their masters, and the hero not only plays with them, but also cooks for them. Because of the loud screams, Eve first came to herself. The first thing she saw was the quarrel between Xian and Lian. The bride still could not come to terms with the hero's behavior, but she came here to independently dissolve their union. And now he is trying to induce a feeling of guilt with stupid manipulations. From today they are nothing to each other. That is why the way a guy treats his servants should not worry the young mistress. The girl could not believe her ears. Eve finally woke up and was surprised by the behavior of the master. Did he really quarrel with his bride precisely for their sake? With a sad look, Lian admitted that Xian was one of the laziest dragons, who reached the 8th level in just 40 years. Only after this, the 3 assistants began to constantly play and have fun with him. As a result, this led to a decrease in his level of laziness. In fact, the maids were just very tired of sitting at home with nothing to do, so they took their future victim out for a little walk. If the hero's level is too low, then they will not be able to be together. The young lady will be forced to really break off the engagement. However, after today's dinner, her opinion about the future groom has changed a little, and now he seems much more interesting to her. For now, she will not break the union. First the girl will watch the young man for some time. The hero, in turn, tried to convince her that he really is a complete nonentity. At this moment, Lian was finally convinced that her fiancé had changed so much precisely because of the assistants. He was a real traitor. The young lady wanted to immediately fry the ball of snakes, but the hero is unlikely to allow this, because she is the one who most resembles a snake. Unexpectedly, Felina turned to her friends. Perhaps they had a great chance to bring their plans to life. They can start a huge fire, and after that declare an accident. The evil lady helps them in this. This idea was really not bad. When Lian uses fire magic, it will be necessary to arrange everything so that Xian gets hurt. As soon as Eva thought about this, the guy rushed to her defense. He wasn't even stopped by plates of food, which at that very second flew to the floor. From the very beginning, the beauty raised the hero for slaughter. Only they ate him in the end. They will be able to make a deal. But now the girls began to feel something strange. Hugging the young man tightly, Eva asked him if he was okay. In fact, everything was fine. Xian used an ice shield to protect himself from the fire. Now they were even a little cold. But everyone knows that Lian has very strong magic. The owner simply did not want his assistants to worry. Most likely he was in pain. When everyone had calmed down a little, the young lady approached her fiancé and apologized. She simply could not control herself. Suddenly, Eve hit Lian in the face with her palm with all her might. From now on she has no right to occupy at least some place in the young man's life. Besides, the young mistress should not interfere in their personal affairs. The maid hugged her young master even more tightly. From what she heard, Lian fell into a real stupor. She stood for a few more seconds with her eyes wide open and touched the wound on her face. Apparently her fiancé really decided to take a bold step for the sake of one of his maids. There is no point in the bride being here anymore. Confidently turning in the other direction, the young lady headed towards the exit, finally saying goodbye to Xian forever. Finally, the guy could breathe a sigh of relief, and his assistants immediately pounced on the food, which, although it had been on the floor, was still tasty. Running away from the mansion, Lian asked to collect her clothes, because she would never return to this house again. Their agreement would be terminated. Holding a piece of paper in her hands, which was proof of the end of the engagement, the girl asked the hero to sign it immediately. The father, in his usual manner, tried to calm the young mistress. They had quarreled before. Perhaps this way their love would become even stronger. In fact, this union was a matter of convenience. There was no talk of any love from the very beginning, so Lian is not worried at all. At some point, she noticed a beautiful blue box in which she had previously sent a cake intended for her ex-fiancé. It turned out that this dessert was poisoned from the very beginning. The lady decided that this is why the guy was offended by her. At the very bottom of the box there was some kind of note. Did Xian really eat the cake and remain alive? No one else would dare to touch the cake. In the end, the young lady was finally convinced of her guess. The ex-fiancé really ate the poisoned cake and was not harmed. Meanwhile, the man had to sign an agreement to dissolve the union on his own. Now they will never be able to become an influential family. Suddenly, the man felt a very strong heat behind him. For some reason Lian sent fire magic in his direction. As a result, the sheet of paper shattered into small pieces. The man was shocked and could not understand why the girl was acting so strangely. From today, the marriage contract is indeed annulled, but this is not the end. The young lady is going to woo Lian on her own, without the help of her family. After this, events are transferred to the demon world. Here Ruo Xiao tried to prove that he was really defeated with the help of a fish skeleton. Thus, the huge beast had to abandon his body in order to stay alive. He stood in front of a huge flower, which was called Lian. The strange creature is one of the demon lords. He must keep his emotions under control. But now it was very difficult to do this. The leader of the demons laughed loudly when he heard a stupid story about a boy and a fish skeleton. The loud laughter did not last long. Unexpectedly for Ruo Xiao, his boss very rudely ordered to fix everything immediately. The white-furred beast is the weakest of the 4 demon lords, but is still a mid-level demon. How could it be defeated by prey? Lian already sent the maids an order, but Ruo Xiao will pay them. The beast thanked the boss for another chance. He is going to make sushi from a small dragon. Meanwhile, the hero was in his kitchen and preparing another portion of food for his assistants. He looked like a real chef. All the beauties, without exception, enjoyed the delicious food, but they could not understand when their master learned to cook like this. Suddenly, the girl's meal was interrupted by a loud scream from outside. The maids had to be distracted and look out the window. In fact, it was Lian, the guy's ex-fiancée, was trying to find him. She came here even after she was hit in the face. For the next few minutes, the young lady's loud cries could be heard, and in the end Xian had to give in and answer her. In order to resolve this situation as soon as possible, Eva even agrees to a retaliatory strike from Lian. Perhaps this way the conflict will be resolved. However, the young lady's request was completely different. She knows that the young man loves to walk, so she wants to go on a short trip with him. The hero did not answer to this. He simply silently tied the basket to a small rope and lowered it closer to the girl. Inside was incredibly tasty and appetizing food. When Lian saw it, she forgot her original intentions for a few moments. If the ex-bride is obedient and goes to her home, then Xian will give her a cake that he prepared with his own hands. Hearing this proposal, the young lady became very angry. Is the guy really going to bribe her with some small cake? Despite the anger, the beauty still took the food, but promised to return at lunchtime. It seemed that she was coming here for a portion of food. Having walked a few meters away, Lian returned and bent over the basket. Is it really that one flatbread was not enough for her and she wants more? At this moment, the girl looked quite embarrassed. She slowly took off the soft scarf that looked like a tail from her neck. Most likely, the beauty wanted to demonstrate attention to Xian in this way. A beautiful scarf. This is a small gift. After that, the young mistress finally left, finally turning around and looking at the guy with a rather interested look. From the hero's face one could understand that he did not quite understand this act. Had his ex-fiancée really fallen in love? Going downstairs and picking up a soft scarf, the young man thought a little. Maybe Lian is not such a bad girl. Now the maids need to decide what to do next. Their original goal was not fulfilled. The young master is still alive and well. Moving closer to her friend, Felina whispered in her ear the question of whether they would continue trying to kill the hero. Suddenly, Eva threw the cake that was in her hand towards her friend with all her strength. This question clearly made her very angry. Felina, in turn, easily dodged the food, and was eventually caught by the hero, while he stood with his back to his assistants. It was very rude to throw food away. The maid asked for forgiveness and made excuses. The flatbread itself tore out of her hands. After a while, the guy went to the backyard to practice a little, and Eve watched him from the side. Now the girl needs to write a letter to Ruo Xiao, but she decided not to do this for now, because the white-furred beast has not written to her for 2 days. Perhaps, if they don't do anything stupid, the situation will resolve itself. However, at that same second, a message arrived on the beauty's phone. Looking at the screen, they realized with horror that a mid-level demon had ordered all the maids to begin the hunt for Xian. Not only the 3 maids of the hero, and other assistants from all over the world will take part in this hunt. A photograph of the target was attached to the message. One of the high-level maids immediately recognized the guy in the image. she was surprised that a reward of 20,000 stones was announced for such a person. An entry-level maid would have to work for 10 years for such a sum, so why haven't Xian's assistants completed the task yet? It is possible that the girl simply became attached to their target. This often happens among low-level workers. A high-level servant named Rin has already come up with a plan. Best of all, she knows how to create discord between people. She is able to eliminate the target even without resorting to violence. First of all, the girl went to her master under the name Kinruyai. She was going to tell him the bad news. Sharply opening the front door to the man's room, the maid told about the message that had come to her phone a few minutes ago. To provoke Mr. Qinrui, his assistant said that the hero was trying to take Li Yan away from him. The man's reaction was rather indifferent. After hearing what he heard, he did not even turn to the girl, but only hummed quietly. Apparently Rin will have to explain everything in more detail. We are talking about a beauty whom the gentleman considered his girlfriend. She is cheating on him. Despite all the efforts of the maid, her master still did not understand anything. Nothing like that came to his mind. The assistant talks about Li Yan. She even took out a photo of the young lady. They just discussed a joint wedding yesterday. Only after this the man finally realized that this was the beauty with many tails, from which Rin wanted to make scarves. Xian dared to steal Kinruyai's love. They need to teach him a lesson as soon as possible. The master, although not immediately, agreed to this proposal. If a man kills a hero by mistake, then Rin will be able to complete the task and receive a reward without even straining. Meanwhile, in the guy's mansion, Eva, with tears in her eyes, asked him to be careful. Now he can't leave the house for a long time. In fact, Xian couldn't figure out what the problem was. The girl didn't want to let him go so much that she grabbed his leg and held him tightly. At some point, the maid admitted that they were going to kill the guy. After hearing this, he instantly became more serious and asked for details. The assistant realized that she had spilled the beans. She thought for a few seconds and did not know how best to respond. Felina gave the answers instead. She stood behind her all this time and said that all the maids in this city would try to kill the young man. Now there is no point in hiding. That is why one of the assistants told everything. This is the only way they can take the next step. That is, the girls wanted to fatten up the hero, make him a priest and feed him to the demons, but his level of laziness still did not rise, so they decided to sell him to a mid-level demon. The maids abandoned the guy in the mountains, where he was supposed to be devoured by Ruo Shao. The guy was surprised when he realized that the beast with white fur was still alive. Suddenly he became interested in how exactly the process of pumping up laziness takes place in this world, how people become priests. In fact, it's enough to just lie here and not move, preferably with a phone. Two assistants laid a white blanket on the ground. A few seconds later the young man was already lying on the sheet in a comfortable position. Now he needs to play on the phone, sleep, sometimes he can roll over from side to side. The beauties also brought the guy some snacks. They are not as tasty as his food, but they will still do. Such training seemed incredibly strange to the hero, the same thing as real rest. In his home world he had never done anything like this. Is it really the most important thing to watch your phone during training? And there was some article about swords in it. Everyone knows about swords, but how can they fly? In this news from the internet, they figured out what was happening, or maybe they didn't figure it out. The whole reaction was in shock. And what do readers think about flying swords? And the entire network was absolutely filled with such meaningless news and articles. What kind of nonsense is this? Xian was shocked by what he saw. Still, sometimes you come across really bad articles. The guy decided to look for something else. The next news concerned a poisonous cutie. In the hero's home world, they were some of the strongest weapons. In the video, the cute girl had difficulty explaining how she raises the king of insects. She threw a small white ball into the box of bugs. Toxins can increase her spiritual power, just to learn how to cleanse the poison from the bugs. A few seconds later, one of the beetles sharply grabbed a small white ball. It was red, so they found the right one. This is how the poisonous cutie managed to discover the king of insects. That was really all. She just took him in her hands. There is at least something normal or useful here. The young man asked Eva about this. She advised him to type 999 in the search for a competition of lazy people. In the video there was a young guy named Jean. He was interviewed, because he is the winner of this competition of lazy priests. As everyone has known for a long time, he does not own magic poisons and does not use swords, and he does not know how to fight, but the young man did not do anything with all his might. The next second after his speech, the crowd began to congratulate him on his victory. He really is a champion, except for Jean. None of the lazy people deserve such fame. That is, the lazier a person is, the higher his level, and the speed of progress also depends on what family you are from. Xian, for example, has the blood of dragons, but despite this, he was only able to raise the 8th level. As soon as all the maids received the order to start hunting the hero, Eve begged her master to run away as quickly as possible, while he still could. However, the young man was in no hurry to do just that, because he was interested in what exactly would happen to his maids if he ran away. Do the girls really think that the demons will just let them go? The evil monsters will probably want to take revenge on the maids who did not complete the task. After hearing this, Eve had tears in her eyes. All this time they were trying to kill their master, but despite this he was not angry with them. In fact, the guy understood that the assistant was simply following an order, but they should remember, if you are going to kill someone, then you need to be ready to fight. It seems Felina began to understand why her friend liked the hero, but what should they do now? A hunt has been announced for Xian, soon there will be other maids here. The demons promised a reward for the guy, but they didn't even specify that they needed the whole corpse, so they just had to come up with a cunning plan. Soon evening came, and rather strange sounds began to be heard from the mansion, which were very similar to vomiting. For some reason, the hero forced his assistants to spit a whole box of multicolored liquid. Is this really necessary for the plan? It turned out that this is the only way to imitate another person. You just need to throw hair, nails and everything else inside. Suddenly a very loud voice was heard. It was Rin. She accused the young man of stealing her master's girlfriend. Father Xian immediately came out to the uninvited guest. The man tried to calm the girl down and wanted to know why she was so angry and what happened. Meanwhile, the hero was in the bushes with Eva. The assistant told him that Mr. Qinrui is at the 9th level of laziness. His family is the 3rd most powerful. At the same time, the guy only has the 4th level, because he fought too much, which means he won't win this battle. Qinrui's lightning will turn him into dust. If this is really the case, then the hero must come up with a situation where the task is to film Xian's lifeless corpse and post it online. Xian used an earth magic spell called a shadow stone. At that moment he seemed to split into 2 absolutely identical clones. After that, the guy was going to throw the clone at his enemy. He would kill him with lightning, and the assistants would take the fake corpse to the demons as loot. If the hero does not immediately come out to Rin and her master, then the girl will take the life of her father. The man tried his best to protect his son. Suddenly, a clone of the youth appeared in front of them. The first appearance was accompanied by a bright surge of spiritual energy. Finally, the coward decided to come out of hiding. Rin couldn't wait for the fight, and the guy's father ordered the young man to immediately run home. A few seconds later, Qinrui's voice was heard from the spaceship. He could not believe that the hero had come to certain death. Double Xian behaved quite arrogantly and literally provoked the enemy into a fight, during which he did not mind dying. When the powerful lord's maid saw this, she turned around and headed back to the ship. Xian was too weak and she did not want to fight with him. The situation was getting out of control. We need to figure out a way to make Qinrui angry. We need him to attack. Eve wanted to do something. The maids have long said that the powerful gentleman is a scoundrel. There were even those who committed suicide because of him. The only reason why he is tolerated is because of his high level of laziness. Finally, the girl had the opportunity to yell at him. For this she used a spell called manual clone control. This allowed her to call Qinrui a heartthrob and a shameless womanizer, while the beauty was not afraid of the consequences. Despite everything, Rin believed that with such a low line level, the hero's double was not even worthy of contending for a fight with her master. A man has so many women because he can afford it. Eve didn't expect that her insult would work like compliments. Realizing that her friend was doing everything wrong, Mia took the initiative, after which the clone called the influential gentleman a fool with a small device. From such a statement, Rin fell into a complete stupor. She could not answer a word. Instead the girl silently awaited the consequences. Within a few seconds, very bright lightning flashed above the spaceship. Qinrui could not understand how anyone knew about his problem. When the man escaped from the aircraft, he had a strong feeling of anger on his face. He was going to kill everyone around him. Apparently Mia had gone too far. She asked not to look at her with such contempt, she just wanted to infuriate the enemy, who knew that this was true. In fact, it doesn't matter now, because the plan worked perfectly. The influential gentleman was going to deal with the double here and now. A few moments later, clone Xian turned into incredibly small particles of spiritual energy. Qinrui's blow was very strong. Meanwhile, Li Yan was at home. She really wanted to go to help her ex-fiancé, but she was not allowed out. The fight was shown on the internet. The young lady suggested that the influential mister was offended by her because of yesterday's refusal. This family is too strong, which is why the man attacks everyone. The beauty used magic and destroyed the wall in the room, after which she immediately jumped out. She wanted to find Xian Yi as quickly as possible to help him in a fight with a powerful enemy. It turned out that after the strong blow from Qinrui, double Xian was not seriously injured. Small particles of energy gathered together again. The powerful master and his maid could not believe their eyes. No one had previously been able to survive a lightning explosion. Frankly speaking, even the guy did not expect such an outcome of events. His whole plan was to fake his death. How such a cool lightning could not destroy even a weak clone. Apparently now the hero will again have to look for another way out of the situation. Suddenly the man began to feel very bad. He covered his mouth with his hands, after which he began to bleed. Pointing his finger at Xian's double, the influential gentleman said in a pathetic voice that he was the first who managed to withstand his strongest blow. A few seconds later the man lost consciousness. He assured that his opponent was just lucky. Rin instantly rushed to his aid. The surprised young man tried to encourage the enemy. Why did he give up after the first failure? He should try again. Apparently Quan is in perfect order. What should they do now? The hero can simply blow up his double, but this will look too suspicious. Felina suggested an option in which she would try to pretend to be mortally wounded. Her friend did not think that at least someone would believe her. Here it is, the lightning power of the Qinrui family. The double pretended that his organs were starting to fail one by one. Before he died, he was lucky to see the real power. It was a wonderful battle, even considering that the influential and master forgot why they started it. Are these the last words? Now Xian can say anything. After that his clone will be blown up. The guy decided to think about it for a few minutes. Just now Li Yan arrived at the scene of events, and the double said that the young lady broke off their engagement, so they are no longer connected in any way. If someone should die, then let it be Xian. These were the last words. In a few moments, the clone will disappear. Soon he dissolved into beautiful fragments. In the end he asked not to blame Li Yan, because she was not to blame for anything. This performance took place in front of the young mistress's eyes. She did not know that there was an ordinary clone in front of her, so tears appeared in her eyes. She could not understand why the ex-fiancé decided to act so stupidly. For her sake he was even ready to sacrifice his life. If everything could be returned. Suddenly Xian, who had dissolved into fragments a second ago, appeared in front of the young lady. Father Hero, I was also nearby. When the man thought that his son was no more, he began to scream with grief and regret. After all, this was his only son and the hope of the whole family, and as an apology, Li Yan transferred a large amount to the man's account. Such an act made the head of the family incredibly angry. How dare they come to his house and kill an innocent person? They should not get away with it. Right now the girl must transfer a lot more money. This was the man's final demand. In fact, the hero's father found out about the plan. Xian was already in a safe place. Today they managed to extract a good amount from the fools. The guy also told his father that he needed to leave home so as not to create unnecessary problems. Besides, he had already stayed too long in one place. Pointing his finger to the sky, the young man remembered space, which is high above the clouds, where his comrades in arms are located. Now Eve had no doubt that her master was really not from this world, whether he wanted to stay here forever and live the rest of his life in love and care. There is a lot of beauty and tranquility here, obviously more than in deep space. However, the hero does not like it here. He is not used to such a life. In this case, the girl will not persuade the gentleman, because this is his conscious decision on how they can help him return home. Now Xian has 9 elements. He needs to gather enough energy to activate them all at the same time. For example, when Mia brought the hero a cake, he split it into energy and absorbed it. Only at that moment the girl believed in her strength again. By the way, She also noticed that the guy used the element of wood to cure him and his friends. She can poison the hero, and he will treat her, so they will begin to generate an endless amount of energy. Unfortunately, there was a serious flaw in this plan. Xian spent tens of times more energy on treatment than he received from the poison. This is a bad idea. In fact, this also brings a lot of pain to the guy, so you need to look for another plan. This one is no good. Soon Felina approached her master and extended a shirt in his direction. If you use it, you can get 1000 mana points. This happened immediately after the hero touched it. This robe is called a low-level demon cloak. It enhances magical abilities. As a gift from Eva, her special gloves were used. They allowed him to enhance any magic. The guy should try it right now. If even the small trinkets of beauties enhanced the magic, then one can only imagine what ancient artifacts are capable of. It is unlikely that you will be able to find them just like that. By the way, there will be a competition today. The winner will receive one of the ancient treasures. Xian still managed to register. Before that he needs to choose some new name, because everyone thinks that he died. In this case, the young man simply uses his real name, which everyone called him in the world from which he came. Meanwhile, Rin was already near the portal to the demon world. She was delivering a box that was supposed to contain Xian's corpse. For some reason, this thing smelled very strongly, and suddenly there was a very strong explosion of fiery energy in front of the maid. It was Lian. The young lady could not come to terms with the death of her ex-fiancé, so she wanted to at least take away his remains. From her look, one could understand that the girl was beside herself with anger. Her eyes seemed to burn with the same bright fire as her techniques. For some reason, Lian's magic managed to pump up incredibly quickly. Rin could not understand why the young mistress needed a corpse. All that remained was to bury him. The dead could not be brought back to life. When the girl with red eyes heard this, she finally ran out of patience. The young lady read a message on her phone about her maid, so she knows that it was Rin who killed her ex-fiancé. In the world of demons, an announcement was made from that same maid. She asked Mrs. Lian to stop her, who took her personal phone and found out about the secrets. And the young lady herself, in turn, turned to Xian's assistance. She asked for help to return the guy's body. One of the great demons, Lian, was very angry with Lian, because she ran so hard that now she only has the second level of laziness. She needs to get rid of her as soon as possible. Next to him was another higher demon. It was a beautiful woman named Huang. She completely agreed with her colleague. The young mistress has already crossed all boundaries. She needs to be caught, and let this serve as a warning to others. The woman will add her to the list of names. When the high demoness opened the list, she was very surprised, because she saw Xian there. He should have been dead for like 3 days. Lian explained this by saying that the guy somehow managed to escape from Ruo Shao in an unprecedented way, but fortunately he died last night. In fact, Huang was surprised by the fact that the soul of the true heir of the Deep Water family arrived at the Temple of the Gods just 3 days ago. Thus, it could be concluded that the body the guy is now controlled by someone else. Lian thought that this was not important at all. The man was more interested in the new participant in the lazy persons competition, who registered and submitted his application a couple of minutes ago. It turned out that all the inhabitants of the demon world know this name. He is the only person who was able to once wound their lord. In one of the huge demon castles, a woman with long white hair was sitting. She was crying loudly and did not understand how the legendary warrior could survive. He was dying right before her eyes. How can this be? The demoness several times in a panic reread the name of the participants on the screen, what he is doing on this planet. The hero was also called the captain of the Phoenix warship, and was a highly respected captain who fought with all his might. Meanwhile, the hero realized that he needed to disguise himself somehow, otherwise everyone would recognize him at the tournament. Eva suggested dressing in women's clothes. As a result, the guy saved up again with silt and took on the guise of an adult man, and his ex-fiancée still thought that Xian was dead. Next, the events are transferred directly to the Tournament of Lazy People. Here everyone was already in place. The participants were going to take their usual places so that the audience would not be bored. At this competition it is necessary to be as lazy as possible. In this guise no one will recognize the young man. He also promised to try his best. Suddenly, Kinruyi approached him and greeted him. Somehow the gentleman managed to recognize Xian in the man, but despite this, for some reason he was not surprised. It turned out that the influential gentleman was called here by his relatives to try to find a new wife for himself. The hero asked him to stay away from him. Kinryai handed out a note that contained all the information about girls above the 9th level. Unfortunately, the man couldn't remember that much information. Does he really want Xian to memorize the list of his potential brides? Soon the maid will have to. If she finds out that the harmful gentleman has not learned anything, then she will be very angry. He simply has no one else to ask for help. A few seconds later, Rin appeared in front of them. The young man had nowhere to go, so he decided to make the most of it. Now he had information about some rivals. The assistant of an influential gentleman asked whether her master had learned everything by heart, in response to which the man answered positively. Moreover, he managed to find a friend. When Rin heard this, she smiled sincerely and praised Kinryai. Among other things, she had a gift. He saw one of Lian's tails. The maid wanted to make a scarf out of this thing in the future. You could also see that drops of blood were dripping from this thing onto the ground. What he saw caused the hero great anxiety, and he asked ere the assistant of an influential gentleman found this tail. This question seemed strange to the girl, and at first she thought that the unknown man wanted to get the same one. Pointing her finger upward, she said that this tail belonged to Lian, the daughter of one of the influential families. She had broken the law, and during the opening ceremony of the competition she would be sacrificed to heaven. Today this girl will most likely leave this world, after which Xian will be able to take one of her tails for himself. The organizers should not be against it. Suddenly, Xian ran towards where his ex-fiancée was supposedly located. If Rin had known that he needed a tail so much, he would have taken another pair. Kinryai asked his maid to send a message for the hero, but she was against it. Where was he going anyway? He should still sit on the phone. In fact, the influential gentleman remembered how dear Lian was to the guy. Before his death he said that he loved her very much. Even if this is really the case, then Rin very much doubts that the competition organizers will listen to some stranger. Everything will go according to the script. Kinryai, it should be remembered that in this world he is not omnipotent. All this time, the young lady was on a high wall, where a crowd was looking at her. This beautiful girl with fox ears was different from others since childhood. She always wanted to eat delicious food, and she asked her parents about it. Unfortunately, she usually had to eat what the servants prepared. Frankly speaking, this food looked very bad. The strict father believed that food like meat and vegetables was only for commoners. In the end, he sometimes had to fulfill his daughter's whims. The young lady spent almost all her free time learning magic. Her mother forced her to read one book after another. Thanks to this, the girl managed to learn the basics of magical art at an early age. She was very good at creating fire. After just a few months of training, she managed to find a way to enhance magic in one book, and she decided to brag about it to her father. Suddenly, something went wrong and Lian got a little burned. Due to lack of experience, she was unable to hold back the strong flow of fire. After that, mom and dad called their daughter a complete fool. Instead of lying on the phone and increasing the level of magic, she is doing some kind of nonsense. These words hurt the young lady very much. Tears appeared in her eyes, and she wanted to never depend on others again. A few years later, when the girl grew up and became a teenager, it became clear that she constantly wanted to go for a walk, a place to be lazy. This behavior made her parents very angry. Lian only had a second level of Lenny. How was she going to look into the eyes of other family members? And mom and dad were also infuriated by the fact that the young lady never added Xian as a friend. Even though they were engaged, the guy was already level 8. The girl picked up the phone and went to the social network, where she saw new photos of the hero, in which he was having a lot of fun with his maids. That day he was taken out for a walk for the first time. There was an azure sky and clear water all around. This is freedom that no amount of money can buy. Then Lian realized that the hero is actually exactly the same as her. He doesn't like to be lazy. Adventure and fun are more important to him. Despite this, her parents were planning to break off the engagement. Because Xian had fallen to the 4th level of the lineage, they were the ones who initiated this decision. They didn't care at all about their daughter's feelings. Her future husband had to be rich, or she wanted to die in poverty. Contrary to all the wishes and instructions of her mother and father, the young lady was going to stay with her lover until the end. She was holding a box in her hands, which did not smell very pleasant. Huang turned to her. The highest demoness accused Lian of abusing books. The girl was trying to study, which is why she would be sacrificed to the god of laziness. The young lady turned to everyone present and said that they were all deceived. The demons assigned servants to them, make them lazy, and after that they eat them like food. This speech could be watched on the internet. Kinruyi asked his assistant if it was true. Rin So said with a calm face that it was all nonsense. Unfortunately, none of the ordinary people believed the words of the injured girl. Soon accusations began to fall in her direction. They wanted to kill her and take all the tails. Somewhere nearby was Eva along with her friends. Mia couldn't believe that they came here to save Lian. But she risked her life to save what she thought was the corpse of her lover. They simply cannot let her die. Unfortunately, it will be very difficult to save the young mistress. Now even Felina could not come up with some kind of plan according to which this could be done. The main problem was the high demon Huang, who stood next to the injured girl. The woman is one of the most powerful demons in the world. Suddenly, Huang came close to Lian and asked her to be a little quieter. The words from the young lady's mouth were too vile and truthful. And the saddest thing was that no matter how hard the girl tried, she still would not be able to awaken the minds of stupid people. They are too insignificant for this. Nobody will listen to one young beauty. When the demon said this phrase, a hero appeared above her head. The crowd could not believe their eyes. Some daredevil managed to break through to the altar. One, you should be careful. With incredible speed, Xian moved to the young lady and grabbed her in his arms, and the powerful demoness received several shallow wounds, due to which her clothes were torn into pieces. The woman is a demon of seduction. It is not surprising that all the men present immediately began to stare at her. How does Felina even know this information? In fact, it's better for Mia not to know the answer to this question. It will be easier to sleep. Thanks to her unique magic, Wan is able to absorb the powers of all men nearby. The hero is unlikely to be able to cope with it alone. Meanwhile, the guy tried his best to calm Lian down, but the girl still believed that her lover's corpse was in the box. Soon the demoness came close to them. She would never have believed that there would be some fool brave enough to challenge her. Very soon, the beautiful woman was going to take away all the vital forces from the impostor and turn his body into an ordinary mummy. Previously, the young man had never seen such an element. What is his rival going to do next, and what can be opposed to such magic? The guy didn't even try to dodge, so one decided to deal with him as quickly as possible. In fact, the beautiful woman thought that the young man did not have a single chance of salvation. The magic should completely immobilize him. Suddenly a barrier appeared in front of Xian Yi, his former fiancée. When the stream of spiritual energy came into contact with the shield, the guy received several thousand mana points. Apparently it was poison. Now you can process it in your favor. From such an outcome of events, the demoness was incredibly surprised why nothing happened to the impostor. Had she really missed the mark? Now the hero cannot just scare Huang. He must pretend that he is seriously injured. Only for the current she will continue to attack. Having used all his acting efforts, the guy began to cough with all his might. The girl was very afraid for the health of her savior. Unexpectedly for the powerful demoness, the daring young man called himself Xian. Everyone around had long ago decided that the heir to the family of deep waters had died. However, in reality, everything is not so. He rose from hell and came for the villains who dared to hurt his beloved. They will pay for it. Meanwhile, one of the participants in the lazy competition did not understand why everyone was suddenly so angry with Lian. She clearly did not deserve such a bad attitude. At the same time, it was quite interesting to watch what was happening. The participants were worried that someday they might find themselves in the place of the young mistress. This means that he came here from another world. The crowd could not understand where this crazy person was coming from. They wanted to drive him far away so that he would not interfere with the competition. Flax marks on the bodies of all creatures in this world, and, lazier a creature, the higher its level. It's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. High-level lazy people are not stronger than low-level ones. They're just tastier. Xian is a low-level slacker, but now there is an extremely strong soul in his body. Now the demons have come out and cannot fight him. Otherwise the whole world will know that even such a weakling can beat the messengers of the gods. For the sake of peace in the world of demons, one must do everything to prevent a fight. She began to cry and said that it was very difficult for her. She wanted to save this pair of lovers who were about to die. She offered a deal. If the hero becomes the champion of today's competition, then the woman will declare his beloved innocent. In fact, she wanted to arrange the guy's death. However, the young man himself did not want any bets, he needed the demoness to hit him again, but it looks like he will still have to agree, so at least he can win the artifact. In this case, if Xian loses, then Huang can kill him with his magic to her, a woman. This proposal seemed bold, but she began to suspect something. Suddenly the hero asked if there was a bathroom somewhere. He really wanted to go there and take a shower. It turned out that we needed to head to the hall and turn right. The young man ran very quickly to the indicated place. Lian wanted to wash herself when some water fell on her in the young man's house, and now she clearly wants to do the same. Only now the young lady wondered why her lover was still alive and well, and also became stronger, and what was in that box. When the guy and the girl arrived at the right place, they saw a huge room in which there was an incredibly large and deep pool. No one comes here in the morning, so Lian can take his time. The young man handed her shampoo and everything else, and she asked him to leave. The hero was quite surprised by such a request. In fact, he had no intention of leaving. His main goal was to treat his beloved. Now they only have half an hour before the start of the competition. When the young lady realized everything, she became very embarrassed and covered herself with her hands. Soon all participants were announced the start of the competition. They would begin in exactly half an hour. Everyone was asked to prepare as they entered the field. Of course, such lazy people were too lazy to even prepare. The program was broadcast throughout the country, therefore, we need to do at least something. Commoners, after all, they are limited in time. Among the applicants was the girl who had previously chosen the main poisonous beetle. She saw that Lian and Xian were now swimming in the large pool. It turned out that the first round was a competition in water. The guy asked the girl to calm down. They were too excited and it was inconvenient for him to treat her. At some point, the young mistress was so worried that she accidentally slipped and fell straight to the bottom of the pool. Only at the last moment did the hero manage to grab her by the waist. It became clear that the beauty really had serious wounds. After all, even a light touch caused her to bleed. The young man accidentally touched the wound and promised to be more careful in the future. Really, in order to simply return Xian's corpse, the young lady did such a thing. It seemed that she was even ready to die. The hero asked the question, did Wan Tak really hurt his beloved? He will definitely deal with her after the competition. The young man's guess turned out to be wrong. Most of the spectators did all this. They threw stones at the young lady and cut off their tails. Since childhood, she did not like to sit at home, so she has only the second level of laziness. Throughout her life, she has to endure bullying. No one needed the young mistress in this world, where everything is decided by the level of laziness. No one believed her when she said that demons raise people for slaughter. This is easy to explain. For 1,000 years lazy people have been elevated to gods. Fools like Lian are simply not needed by society. With tears in her eyes, the girl asked her lover not to sacrifice everything for her. She was ready to take on a difficult burden. Suddenly the hero hugged the young mistress with all his strength. He does not want to listen to such nonsense, because he is exactly the same as the beauty. In addition, Lian is completely right. All the madness that is happening is the work of demons. Apparently only they can restore justice. At the moment, their main goal is to reveal the truth. The young man will at all costs attract the attention of the people and open their eyes. Thanks to the guy's sincere love, the young mistress regained her beautiful ponytails, and from now on she is the same as before. Tearful Lian, she hugged her lover very tightly and apologized. The fact is that she is ashamed of her weakness. The girl blamed herself for her weak character, because their marriage contract was concluded only on the initiative of their father. He wanted their family to become stronger. In fact, there is nothing wrong with this. The hero understands everything. Now he only has the 4th level. The head of an influential family does not need such a son-in-law. In addition, their engagement had already been broken off. However, the mistress asked him to let her finish the deal, and from now on she became free. And despite this, she still wants to be near Xian. At this moment the beauty was about to say something very sincere. However, she was abruptly interrupted by a loud splash of water. Because right now the official competition had begun, all participants plopped into the pool. They were surprised by the stupidity of the hero. What they do so early at the sight of the first test, they only show their lack of laziness. But Xian and Lian just now learned that the first stage of the tests will take place in the pool. There was complete misunderstanding on their faces. By the way, the guy became interested in what the young lady was going to tell him in particular. The girl no longer wanted to explain anything. Vel was approached directly by her father, whose name was Chi. He was at the 8th level of laziness. He became interested in why his daughter was disgracing their family even more. But the hero seemed to the man to be a rather capable lazy person. If he tried, he could regain his strength and become promising again. However, instead of this, he not only did not stop degrading, but also dragged Lian to the bottom with him. It was she who learned from him to talk all sorts of nonsense. The hero got angry from what he heard. The claims of the influential man were completely unfair, because his daughter did not say anything terrible. Frankly speaking, the young man should keep his mouth shut, because the person in front of him is the main judge of this competition. When Mr. Chi said this phrase, all the applicants were asked to stay in the pool. Apparently now Xian will be even more difficult for his beloved. Yuna, I am a mistress, must leave, because she is not a participant. In the end she tried to calm her lover down and asked him to try his best. In fact, the guy would have tried his best anyway, but what can he do against dishonest refereeing? Just sit in the water and sour. The rating depends equally on the audience and the judges. 8 participants will advance to the next round. It will end in 10 minutes, but what does the rating depend on? At some point, the cutie with the bugs infected the water around her. It all turned purple. She is in 5th place and has a 6th level. Another participant named Taoxin decided to hold a bloody tea party. She is a professional vampire. Are the audience willing to die for her? In 3rd place was a representative of the white metal family. Her name was Bei. She is a professional swordswoman with the 8th level of lineage, and her enemies are lucky that she does not have a weapon now. In 2nd place was a representative of the dragon family. Her profession was called following fate. She had an incredible 18th level of laziness. Everyone present needs to remember to bring popcorn. Some of the applicants have already completed all the daily tasks, but are still playing. And now it was time to name the participant with the highest score. Suddenly lightning struck the pool. This was a clear hint. In 1st place was the already familiar Kinrui. Although he is only level 9, his techniques are simply incredible. He can sleep even in the middle of a thunderstorm. This idea prompted the hero to think. It is quite possible that the main evaluation criterion is the beauty of skills. Once upon a time, the guy's teacher said that he needed to get the magic of his ancestors. Xian was very happy about this proposal and agreed. It turned out that the ancient secret simply made the techniques much more beautiful. The young student could not understand what the use of this was. The wise master did not want to answer this question, because he considered himself the best in the world, so everyone should listen and obey him. In fact, she was an attractive woman. She is a role model for all the students. They should admire her incredible beauty. Everyone thinks that if something looks better, then it is more valuable. The hero had never used this magic before, so he had to try to remember everything. In addition, he had no idea what he would succeed with the first time he used it. In the end, he still used his hands and used the technique. Mr. Chu carefully followed the list of applicants. He could not find Xian there. Apparently the man did not even need to interfere with him once again. Suddenly, a huge better golden light fell from the sky onto the surface of the water. The powerful man could not understand what was happening. It soon became clear that an incredibly powerful flow of energy had managed to pierce the firmament, and huge cracks appeared in the sky. After that, all the spectators could see the real universe. It was a legendary world outside the heavens. The beauty was difficult to describe in words. The rest of the participants could not believe their eyes. They raised their heads up and, like the others, admired the indescribable landscape. Myriads of stars illuminated a single person. He was Xian himself, who took a majestic pose. Rui wondered how this could be. This skill was simply incredible. She wanted to learn exactly the same one. This could not be done by a person with the 4th level of laziness. The judge looked at the sky and could not look away. The sight was truly impressive. Pointing his finger at the hero, the gentleman ordered him to name the name of this technique. It turned out that the guy had already forgotten, so he would have to come up with it. A bunch of special effects should be fine. This name reflects the whole essence of the spell. After all, it is simply beautiful, but does nothing else. Suddenly, the cutie with the beetles came up close to the young man. She looked very excited and desperately wanted to know what level Xian had. No one could believe that the guy only has level 4 sloth, because there is a specific list that says that space special effects are only available from level 21. Now it has become clear that everyone around is only doing that they are trying to make their skills more beautiful, and not stronger. This is strange, because in a real fight such fighters are destined to die. Opening their eyes to the truth is completely useless, so the hero needs to make them apologize to Lian. He came up with a plan. Raising his hand high, he solemnly announced that everything worked out for him only thanks to the blessing of the goddess Lian. The guy called himself a worthless lazy person, but thanks to just one blessing from his mistress, he became several times stronger. The crowd mistakenly began to consider her the scum of society, but in fact she is a representative of the deities who took pity on them all. The beauty has come down into this world for the sake of ordinary mortals. They attacked her. People not only did not help her, but also cut off her tails. The girl herself stood in complete incomprehension. And the crowd should not think that this incredible skill is just a decoration. The endless rays of cosmic light are the tears of the goddess. As soon as the guy finished his speech, a huge number of people immediately fell to their knees and began to apologize to the young miss. This chance had to be taken. The girl tried for the second time to tell people the whole truth. Demons are raising them for slaughter. Suddenly Lian stopped. She thought about why her lover decided to deceive the crowd. Perhaps she shouldn't take drastic actions. When the girl found out about the secret of the demons, they decided to execute her publicly in front of everyone, which means they are not afraid of revealing this secret. Someone constantly supports their lies. At this moment Huang elegantly walked up to Mr. Chu and touched his shoulder. Since childhood, Lian was not like everyone else. For some reason, her father never thought about the question of why his daughter was different from the rest. The High Demoness was right. No one would listen to the young mistress until she had enough power, so the girl changed her plan. Turning to people, she said that the champions have always been high-level lazy people. The skill of low levels is too ugly. No one will pay attention to them. Lian plays along with his beloved. He wants all the inhabitants of the country to be equal to each other. For this they need to vote for Xian. Because he is a low-level lazy man, who, thanks to the power of the goddess, was able to use the most complex skill, the future of people depends on him. Within a few minutes, the hero began to actively climb the list of participants, and with every second he became more and more popular. This is exactly what the guy wanted. The young lady understood everything correctly. He turned in her direction and showed a thumbs up. This whole performance made me very angry. Lord Chu, what kind of divinity are these fools talking about? He personally raised his daughter. They deceived everyone. The chief judge independently put Lenin's mark on all participants and understands the situation better, and now nothing depends on his vote. It is unlikely that other judges will agree with an influential person. They will most likely give their vote to Xian. Another member of the judging panel was named Chang Min. She is a history teacher of lazy people. This woman is an honest person and will not underestimate the hero. And the last judge is a girl named Mo Shan. She is most susceptible to beautiful things, so she will definitely vote for the guy. Unexpectedly for Mr. Chu, Huang asked him to relax. She wanted Xian to win the competition from the very beginning. A few minutes later, the presenter announced the end of the first round. After congratulating the winners, the second round would begin. It starts in 2 hours. All applicants must rest and prepare. If these are duels, then the hero only needs to defeat 3 opponents. For obvious reasons, the other participants began to take a closer look at Xian. They still did not believe that he was level 4. Only the cutie with the bugs didn't care about this question. The guy's explanation was enough for her. He said that it was a blessing. Is he really fighting for universal equality? In fact, this is complete nonsense. Most likely, he is just an egoist who follows his instincts. There is no need to worry about this, because a professional vampire can easily deal with an inconvenient opponent. She only needs a drop of his blood. For this purpose, Taoxin went to the hero. At that time, he was sitting distantly on one of the sofas and waiting for the start of the competition. Suddenly, a pretty girl in a pink dress tripped and fell right in front of the young man. This situation immediately aroused suspicion. The stranger introduced herself as a vampire princess. Xian instantly realized that he would have to deal with another abnormal one. Taoxin pretended that she was very ill. She pretended to have a strong trembling all over her body. She needed to drink blood right now. She is so hungry that she cannot even sleep. No normal man should be able to resist her. This is the dream of all lazy people. But suddenly Xian very carefully slapped the beauty in the face, after which she collapsed onto the soft sofa as if nothing had happened. After that, she can sleep sweetly for about 12 hours. When the beauty wakes up, the competition will already be over. Thus, the guy managed to eliminate one opponent. The rest of the participants spied on him and did not believe that a person could be so unscrupulous. His behavior was very low. One of the participants wanted to duel the hero and win. Everyone considered her the strongest. After some time, the history teacher heard a strange noise and decided to find out what was happening, since the participants should be resting. Cutie with Bugs and Rui complained to the elder about Xian. He knocked out one of the participants with one blow. The woman can see for herself. Changmin made comments to the guy, because you can't use brute force at competitions, but he didn't do anything. An unfamiliar girl just came to him and fainted. She lost consciousness from hunger. In fact, it was the organizer's fault for not feeding the hungry vampire. The teacher should take the victim to the first aid station as soon as possible, before it is too late. The woman asked for forgiveness with a worried face. Holding the unconscious girl in her arms, the woman asked the young man in a quiet whisper if he really studied in the Phoenix Mountains. The skill he used is the secret technique of the Phoenix sect. Changmin saw the young man's memories in that ray of light. The teacher also saw constellations there. She had no doubt that a brutal war was now taking place in the hero's home world. Suddenly Xian grabbed the woman by the hand and asked how she knew him and what else she saw, and the teacher immediately asked to let her go. The other girls were still watching what was happening. Does this guy really like older people? They are doing something strange there. Unfortunately, the woman cannot tell all the secrets, but she has something else. She can show the final prize for winning the competition. From the moment Xian appeared in this world, he always had some kind of dark energy in his hands, the source of which he never found. Now the guy was not afraid of the other participants in the competition, but he was very frightened by the judge with whom he had just spoken. She knows too much about him. If the hero follows her, he may end up in a trap, and if he doesn't follow, he may miss something important, and a serious choice needs to be made. Fortunately, he managed to come up with a plan. Changmin took the victim to the first aid station and noticed that the hero still followed her. With a smile on her face, she greeted the guy. Did he really decide to surrender to the mercy of his enemies? This is quite a bold decision on his part. It turned out that the hero simply put his phone on the clone, and then called himself from his lover's phone. The girl thought that her fiancé was looking at other women on the internet. Also seemed to the young lady that Xian began be interested older partners. This is a history teacher, she got it all wrong. A few minutes later, the teacher approached the closed door and said that behind them was a prize for the champion of this neighborhood. 1,000 years have passed, maybe the hero has already forgotten it. These words from the woman sounded quite strange and the guy wondered what she was even talking about, why he should remember something. Soon he saw on the phone screen something that shocked him. It was simply incredible. It seemed that the young man was hallucinating. In the middle of the huge room stood a warship that belonged to a guy in his home world, on which he performed many feats. But where in this world did his warship come from? Changmin announced that she brought a new guy who is one of the survivors of the war. After this, a voice began to be heard from the depths of the spaceship. It is usually called Han. He asked the hero to come closer to him. The teacher invited the unknown voice to explain their joint plan. For this Xian needed to come even closer. As soon as the guy's double approached the space transport, one of its hatches opened, and the arrow instantly increased from it, which pierced through the clone's body. At that moment the phone screen went dark and the real hero lost contact with his equipment. This whole situation surprised Xian even more. What could all this mean and why did the unknown voice need to kill the double? It could also be concluded that these people are clearly not weaklings, because they managed to destroy the clone with one blow. The guy jumped up from the sofa and ran somewhere. In response to his lover's answer, he replied that he urgently needed to go to the toilet. Now he had the opportunity to take off using the intersection of air elemental clouds. Maintaining this spell requires spending a lot of mana points. However, now he has no other choice. If the young man does not find out what is going on here, he will be in great danger. In the end, he used the technique and flew up. How is this world connected with the one from which the hero came here? He had to spend half of his mana points in just a couple of seconds, and he had been collecting them for a long time and spent a lot of effort. Soon he was already in the stratosphere. He needed to save his strength, otherwise there was a chance of not returning home. From here he had the opportunity to see what this world looks like. From a great height he saw his home. The earth was round after all, and incredibly beautiful. This landscape was mesmerizing. Memories from the past came flooding back to him, when once upon a time he was on a training ship with his classmates. It was the day of initiation into part of the team ship. Xian asked the coach one question. He raised his hand and exclaimed, "Each person from birth is associated with a certain element, but they learn to train all 9 at the same time. Isn't that how they waste their strength? This is really true. Everyone should do what they do best. No one has yet been able to master all the elements, but that is not the point. To become stronger, you need to make sacrifices. This is the only way a person will have a chance to go down in history." From what he heard, the hero had an epiphany. Humanity of the past has evolved from agriculture to space travel. However, there are many civilizations in the universe that are stronger than them. Wars between such civilizations destroy entire star systems. People do not know whether they can survive, but they must continue to fight. It is quite possible that the planet Earth will be captured or destroyed, and only those present on this ship will be able to become a trace of human civilization in history. Is this really the same world? The guy would never confuse his home planet Earth with some other one. It turns out that the young man was not transported to another world, but simply became a time traveler. All this time he was at home. Unexpectedly, he hit his head on something. It was very strange, because being in space you don't expect something like that. Having come to his senses, Xian realized that right now a very beautiful girl with long white hair was standing in front of him. She was taking a bath. It was hard to believe, but the hero also began to have old memories. He had already seen this person before. In that last battle that he fought in the past, this girl was his opponent. Most likely humanity lost then. At the last moment, the guy sacrificed himself to take the life of the captain of the enemy side. He rushed at her with a sword. Despite this, the girl was still alive and standing right in front of him. She was very embarrassed and tried to cover herself with her hands. Now the young man had an incredible number of questions, but if he does not return to Earth, he will simply crash. He will run out of mana. Finally, he warned his rival about his imminent return, but she could not understand why the enemy decided to leave. After all, he came here to fight. In fact, their meeting was an accident. After a few seconds, the hero completely lost his strength and flew down. After this, the events are transferred to the room where the spaceship is located. A voice asked Changmin what she did. Was such an experienced teacher really unable to recognize a cheap clone? Apparently the woman really wasn't attentive enough. In the end, she concluded that she scared Xian too much, which is why he doesn't trust him and decided to play it safe. Even this does not change the situation. If the guy believed them, it is still not a fact that he would agree to help them. You need to act more carefully. In this case, Changmin will stick to the old plan. The spaceship will go to the palace along with the winner of the competition, and then the teacher will transport the warriors there. It turned out that there were traitors among the warriors, so the voice did not want to do this. The woman could not believe that she was also considered a spy. The unknown voice did not exclude this possibility, so he asked the teacher to come closer. He wanted to look into her soul. The demons had not yet captured Changmin's soul, but the ship's owner suspected that she might still betray him. In the end, all suspicions were removed. It seemed that there was a girl with dark hair inside. The teacher could not understand why she did not trust anyone at all. In fact, once upon a time it was the stranger who trusted one person. She was literally ready to give her life for him. Unfortunately, he disappeared 1,000 years ago. It became clear that this girl knew the hero. They fought together in a war in the past. Meanwhile, the competition continued. Duels should take place in this round, and the winner will compete in the final. The one who makes the opponent cry wins. Taoxin and Xian were supposed to compete in the first round. However, after a few minutes of the start, neither of them appeared. After some time, the audience turned their attention to the sky. A small ray of light appeared there. In fact, it was a falling hero. Since his opponent is still sleeping, the guy is awarded a technical victory. He didn't even have to get up from the ground after the fall. Everything that happens here is inextricably linked with Changmin. The young man understood this perfectly well. He must look at his ship again. The chief judge was clearly not happy with the initial match. What kind of fool would even give the guy such an opponent? It turned out it was Mo Shang. Does the girl really want to say that this is just a coincidence? She deliberately allowed her favorite to win. The man was very angry. And his dear colleague asked him not to worry so much, or Mr. Chu thinks that this applicant is not worthy of victory because of his low level. Most likely, the girl is really right. Judges should evaluate everyone objectively and give people hope, even those worthless and stupid. Suddenly, a message came to his phone. Huang once again asked the man not to worry so much. The right people will take care of Xian. While the man was staring at the screen of his phone, the hero approached him. He decided to find out where Changmin was. The gentleman automatically answered him. Only after this the man came to his senses a little and realized who exactly asked him this question. His surprise knew no bounds. The chief judge suddenly jumped up from his chair and ordered the guy to stay away from his daughter, while Mo Shang filmed the whole thing on her phone. At some point, the man noticed something strange. There was dark energy on the young man's hand. If it didn't seem to him, then this is very serious. Before this, no one around him could see the strange aura around Xian. Mr. Chu sharply grabbed his hand and ordered him to follow him. The rest of the participants noticed this and concluded that the young man decided to butter up the main judge and begged him for victory. Suddenly, a certain stranger appeared in front of the cutie with the beetles. He accidentally injured the girl with his large spikes on her clothes. He behaved very rudely and uncivilized. The girls asked him to apologize, but it was as if he didn't even hear me, but just laughed. He was a young guy with horns on his head and blonde hair. He had never had to apologize to anyone before, and he had no intention of changing anything. He also began to insult the other participants. They pulled on some dresses of ancient priests and walked around as if nothing had happened. In response to this, Bei recommended that the upstart stare less. He himself only does what he drinks tea with milk. Isn't he afraid that he will become fat? Right now, where the cutie with the bugs and this very scoundrel will meet, it turned out that the scoundrel wanted to piss off his opponent ahead of time. However, he didn't succeed. For his efforts he received only 2 rage points. These beauties are so lazy that they don't even know how to get angry. As a result, he did not focus on this. His main task is victory. He cannot give it to someone else. In fact, the dark aura is the seal of a curse. This ancient spell feeds on the anger of the bearer, but the hero still did not understand why he could not remove this thing with purification magic. To put it simply, the more people around the seal bearer who are angry, the worse the guy will become. If he wants to survive, he needs to run away to some quiet corner. There is no need to interfere with anyone. In this case Mr. Chu will not harm Xian Yi and will not kill him, and perhaps even forgive him. When the man said these words, something strange happened. The hero shrank even more in size. He looked like a very small child. This was due to the negative attitude of the chief judge. He did not want to do this and was surprised at how tightly the young man was squeezed. Now Xian has too little strength, not even enough to support the bear's body. Only healing is available to him. He constantly receives damage. He had one idea. He asked the man if the water had been removed from the pool. Mr. Chu was talking on the phone at that time and asked not to interrupt. He believed that the best solution for the hero would be a hospital. However, the guy ran away as soon as he heard about this idea. On stage, the arrogant upstart announced to all spectators that he had come here for only one purpose. Holding a small purple box in his hands, in a loud voice he called everyone present idiots who were not capable of anything. The reaction of the audience was appropriate. Everyone began to hate the scoundrel. How could such a fool even make it to the semi-finals? In that same purple box there were bugs from his dear rival. Did she really think that some insects would make the scoundrel cry? The girl tried her best to protect her pets. She was ready to give up, but the villain still dropped the bugs to the earth. He did this on purpose in order to cause his rival as much suffering as possible. He also stepped on the box with his foot, thereby destroying it. This should be the end of their fight, because the cutie began to cry a lot and begged the bastard to stop. Why is he doing this? Even after this, the scoundrel did not want to stop. The tears of his rival were not enough for him, and the girl was already on her knees begging him to stand. This vile villain wanted the cutie to cry even more, so he kicked her with all his might and she flew back. Fortunately, right at that moment Xian appeared in the arena. He grabbed the girl, thereby saving her from even greater injuries. At the same time, the bastard didn't even see anything bad in his actions. it was the stupid thing that grabbed his leg, which is why he had to throw it away. This brash guy's name was Lin Mao. He is 20 years old and has lived in the Phoenix Mountains all his life. Everyone in this place knows him. However, this fame was not entirely positive. Mostly residents considered him an ordinary hooligan who constantly does some dirty tricks. And at the same time, he himself considered everyone around him stupid. None of them could understand his true intentions. Why do these fools value only cosmonauts? There is magic in this world. Where did the aliens even come from here? This money should have been used to help those in need. Some people find it difficult to earn money for food. One day Lin Mao returned home. That day his life changed dramatically. He asked his wife if his dinner was ready. If he saw carrots, then he wouldn't. Looking in front of him, the guy experienced a severe shock. All this time he had no idea about the terrible secret about his beloved. In fact, she turned out to be a guy. The head of the family realized it was only when she went into the kitchen in only an apron. She was too hot. With anger on his face, Lin Mao accused his wife of deception. Was she really telling lies all this time? It turned out that the roommate never said that he was a woman. Having finally realized everything, the hooligan abruptly rushed to the exit. While running away, he warned his ex-wife that she should not approach him anymore. Then a very unpleasant situation happened to him. Lin Mao did not look at the road at all, and one of the schoolchildren flying past on a sword wounded him, and so he ended up in another world. When he woke up, a girl with pink hair stood in front of him. She welcomed him into her family. The beauty is a hero of the past. From today on, the time traveler will become the vampire's slave. For obvious reasons, the bully did not want to agree to such conditions. The trauma received in his home world did not allow Lin Mao to look at other girls normally. He constantly saw them as guys in disguise. Therefore, he decided to go straight to the street. Immediately after entering another world, Tao Xin warned him that he would remain useless to anyone. She was absolutely right. After only 3 days the daring young man paid for his self-confidence. He was almost dying of hunger. When the bully was about to die, a message appeared before his eyes. The stranger asked whether the starving man really hates everything around him. Offered the power to absorb other people's anger and become stronger, Lin Mao finally had the chance to become a true protagonist. Most of all, he hated the handsome guys who are loved by everyone around him. For Xian, this environment was very bad. The more angry the audience gets, the worse he gets. Right now he needed mana to heal. He put the cutie on the floor and was about to use the remaining mana for regeneration. Meanwhile, the scoundrel offered to attack the stupid little thing. To his great surprise, instead the hero passed by. The guy went straight to the pool and started drinking water. Now this is the only opportunity to replenish vitality and energy. The duelists could not understand what was happening before their eyes. They had the impression that the young man was a complete idiot and was doing inexplicable things. Thanks to the fact that the girl with the beetles infected the water with poison in the first round, Xian managed to get much more mana than from ordinary liquid. The cutie herself knew nothing about the hero's abilities, so she begged him to stop drinking poisoned water, which is what he does. With a tear-stained face, the girl, whose name, by the way, is Xiao, begged her savior not to drink this rubbish. You can die from this poison. Looking at the cutie's tear-stained face, the guy suddenly remembered that it is also a master of poisons. They are practically related. This means that Xiao's tears will also be very nourishing for the guy. He carefully placed his palm on her face and collected the small drops. This girl from her childhood was lonely, although those around her felt sorry for her, but they were still afraid to approach her because of her beetles. Despite this, the cutie felt happy. The frightened faces of other people did not bother her. She lived a full and happy life. In addition to insect friends, she also had a lot of viewers on social networks. They helped Xiao cope with loneliness. Once upon a time, a girl heard a legend about a man who would not be afraid of her poison. He would have knowledge of all the elements. She met him today. This story also said that the legendary poison master wiped the tears from Xiao's face. There can be no doubt, Xian is the same hero from the legends. The spectators were touched, looking at the sweet scene. Just look at how gently Xian wipes her eyes. The guy received a lot of mana points. Thanks to this, the anger emanating from the crowd disappeared very soon. People could no longer remember why they began to pour out. Lin Mao couldn't believe it. He is the main character. Soon Lian arrived on the scene. She was very angry at her lover's behavior. why did he suddenly decide to behave this way with another girl? Coming closer, the scoundrel called Xian strange perverts. Why did he drink the poisoned water, and then also drank the tears of another person? In response to this, the hero, using a gesture, asked the bully to lean closer to him, let him tell him something important. Now it's time for the scoundrel to sleep. The guy sharply tried to poke the enemy with his finger, but he didn't succeed, because you can't use violence. These words were told to him by Changmin, who instantly appeared in front of him and grabbed his hand. She learned that the young man was trying to find her. The host announced that Lin Mao had won in the second round. Everyone needed to prepare for the next battle. The bully tried to find out from the woman how she knew Xian. The teacher did not answer anything. Instead, she completely separated herself and the hero from the outside world. They need to talk and they have too little time. Today the guy saw the magic of space with his own eyes. Changmin asked him if he knew who he almost got into a fight with today. It turned out that Lin Mao also happened to come here by accident. The hero could not understand the claim against him. He didn't do anything, but everyone was shouting at him. But the hero is also from the past and fought in space. How can he not know this guy with horns on his head? They came from the same time. Only now Xian found out about this. Unfortunately, he couldn't remember the bully. He didn't have such fools on his team. In fact, the scoundrel called himself the captain of the main ship, who sacrificed his life to repel the alien attack. From what he heard, the hero experienced great surprise. What are they even talking about? It was he who sacrificed his life for the sake of humanity. It turns out that Lin Mao pretended to be Xian. Changming didn't want to hear about it and scolded the guy for his inappropriate tone in a conversation with her superiors. In the end, the young man decided to use this for his own purposes. After all, the teacher treats him well. He apologized to the bully and called him captain. After which he rushed to him and began to admire the impostor. It was immediately clear from the scoundrel with horns that he was the greatest captain in all history. Now that you haven't met, can a guy take him with him to the battle of the palace? The woman agreed with this idea, but what kind of palace are we talking about? It is also called the Palace of the Gods, but in fact it is a lair of demons. The winner of the competition of lazy people is fed to the demons in this place. After the war, the demons placed marks on the bodies of all living beings and made everyone lazy. This is exactly what the consequences turned out to be. The lazy a creature is, the higher its level, the higher the level, the more rewards. For example, Huang gave Mr. Chu a cup for excellent work this month. Some time passed, the treatises on magic of previous generations were forgotten, and the society turned into a bunch of lazy people who were too lazy to even argue with each other. But there were also those who pretended to be lazy, but in fact they were training and preparing to stage a coup. They finally waited for Lin Mao. Everyone considered him a great savior who would lead them forward and bring back peace. Xian pretended that he had heard a lot of good things about the captain. He could kill all the demons in the area with one finger. By the way, can the allies give the hero some kind of weapon or artifact? It's much more difficult to fight without it. This is not a problem. Changmin showed the guy the ship and can give him a weapon. The bully was offended when he found out that only he was not shown the ship. However, there is no need to rush. Very soon the battle will begin and Lin Mao will see everything with his own eyes. Apparently the scoundrel is not only pretending to be another person, but also wanted to control the ship. When the scoundrel had already turned around and wanted to leave, Xian decided to use magic and freeze the impostor, and then question him in detail. If the hero now attacks the bully, then the anger in his body will begin to consume the guy. The teacher strongly recommends not to do this. 3 years ago Lin Mao was a slave of another family, but he left her and began to live on his own. He is not a demon, but at the same time he is able to use the magic of demons. They seized control over him. The one who controls him is definitely somewhere here and watching everything. In fact, the teacher is just pretending to be stupid. The woman knows very well that the real captain of the ship is Xian. Maybe at least now they will begin to sincerely trust each other. Changmin doesn't mind at all. Hero, after all, he himself sent a clone to her, instead of appearing himself, which means he's the one who doesn't trust anyone. Trust must be mutual, so the teacher will leave this question open for now. The guy could not just get away with it. First, they should together find the one who cursed Xian. In order to win this war, they must finally cure the hero's body and soul. Only in this way will they be able to show the evil demon everything that the warriors of the past were capable of. the woman stood in the rays of heavenly light and her words seemed prophetic. Apparently, it can be said that after the war that happened many years ago, Xian blew himself up along with his enemies, but after that the mysterious girl was resurrected. She occupied the planet and put demons here to rule. They began to raise lazy people for their food. Such a fate befell their native land. And the hero himself inhabited the body of a weakling, who was supposed to be devoured by mid-level demons. Only by a miracle did he manage to escape. Sitting in the locker room, the guy remembered his friends and associates. He still had hope that they were alive and rejoicing somewhere. Suddenly, someone handed him a cup of water, and the young man even jumped a little in place in surprise. It was Xiao. In her hands she was holding a glass completely filled with her tears. The savior likes them. The cutie looked happy. Having drunk everything to the bottom, the guy rose to his feet and put his hand on the girl's head. Thus, he sincerely thanked her for her help. If she needs help anywhere, she can turn to him at any time. Xian has become much taller after replenishing his strength. Suddenly, the cutie began to behave a little strangely. Anxiety appeared on her face and she said that there was one thing that no one could help her with. Throwing her hair back, the cutie showed an unusual symbol that is located on her forehead. Despite her cute and appearance, this matter was about revenge. In fact, this is not even a problem, but rather an order that comes from the head of the sect. It is 1,000 years old and its members are the best poison masters. Several years ago, all of Xiao's friends and relatives were exterminated by demons. Finally, the elder asked the girl to take revenge at all costs. Although this story seems incredibly sad, there are also positive details. Absolutely all the memories of the clan remained in the memory of the cutie. This was the only way to preserve the culture of the great family. After realizing the whole situation, Xian was upset and began to sympathize with the girl. Thus, the guy received another reason to return his home planet to its previous state. The demons will definitely be destroyed. Xiao carefully took the young man's hand and pressed it to her. Whatever the outcome of events, he can always trust her. She is ready to give all her tears. During this sweet scene, Li Yan appeared. Could it be that her lovers have been running after other girls all this time? He should stop behaving like this. Maybe stop flirting with everyone. From the outside it looks at least ugly. The lady misunderstood everything. She should just listen to Xian. He clearly did not want to offend the bride. Cutie, in turn, did not see anything strange in her behavior. If everything is really so, then Li Yan is ready to listen to her fiancé right here and now. She came close to him and is waiting for an explanation. Next, the guy told how someone cursed him with the energy of anger and wanted to kill him, and Xiao's tears saved him. Now they must find this villain. Unfortunately, right now he cannot deal with Lin Mao, because in this case, all the anger that is in the bully's body will absorb the hero. By the way, the cutie with the bugs once heard that Tao Xin can find out everything about a person's past just by tasting a drop of his blood. It really was a great idea. All that remains is to find this vampire. Where is she now? Most likely sleeping in the first aid station. The guy knocked her out after all. If it weren't for the seal, Xian Bai would have simply knocked out all his opponents, thus winning the competition. Don't be surprised by this. The young lady and her future husband went in search of Tao Xin, and Xiao they asked to wait in this room. The cutie happily agreed. The girl loved and appreciated Li Yan very much because she always behaved sincerely and also never tried to rise at the expense of other people. Upon arrival at the first aid station, the young lady had to apologize for the hero. It was just a misunderstanding. Can a vampire forgive a rash act? If you look at the guy closer, you can see that he is so ashamed that he even flattened himself. He looks weak and frail. Wow, even such a proud lady came to apologize to Tao Xin. Previously it was difficult to imagine even in the most vivid dream. However, the vampire would still like to hear an explanation from Xian, why he came here silently and did not even say a banal goodbye. In the end, he decided to knock her out at the first opportunity, while Tao Xin herself claimed that she did not want to do anything bad. This question took the guy by surprise. At first he couldn't come up with something intelligible. He needed to use all his resourcefulness. After a few seconds, he bowed politely and said words of apology. It just seemed to him that the vampire wanted to drink his blood. Both girls were shocked by what they heard. It turned out that similar wording is sometimes used in the context of intimacy. To rectify the situation, the young man argued that he devoted himself to service and could not think about women. Great things awaited him. he could not stay with someone all his life. The more Xian spoke, the angrier his lover became. At some point her patience snapped and she threw a pillow at the guy. In the hospital ward there were many bags of special blood, she intended for vampires, so why was the hero's blood needed? Tao Xin could no longer answer such a question. She should have thought out a better plan of action. Now she was driven into a dead end.